The epic Fletcher-class destroyers of World War II. Fast, powerful, and deadly, these warships were the backbone of the U.S. Navy's destroyer fleet, feared by their enemies and revered by their crews. With speed, power, and cutting-edge technology, they fought in some of the most intense battles of the war. From the Battle of the Atlantic to the Pacific Theater. These ships served with distinction, taking on enemy submarines, aircraft, and surface vessels. They played a pivotal role in securing victory for the Allies. Today, we will take you on a journey through history, exploring the incredible stories of these awesome machines and the courageous sailors who manned the Fletcher-class destroyers.
All right, thanks for checking out Museum Ship Mafia. My name is Ken Stano with YouTube channel History X and historyxchannel.com. Tonight we've got another special episode of Museum Ship Mafia for you tonight because it's another live crossover broadcast where we celebrate the 80th anniversary of the commissioning of one of the 4 remaining Fletcher-class destroyers on the planet. Tonight it's going to be the USS Charrette, which eventually became the HS Velos, which is now on display in Greece. People helping me tonight. We're going to bring a few people on board. We've got Shane Stevenson from the Buffalo Naval Park. Are you all checked in and ready to go?
Absolutely, Ken, as always.
All right. And then John Epp from the USS Slater in Albany, New York. John, are you all dialed in?
I am ready to go.
All right. And then helping us out tonight, we've got Connor Kilgore, who is one of the admins from the Facebook group, the Museum Ships Facebook group. He is also a volunteer for the Alexander Henry Icebreaker in Thunder Bay, Ontario. We're going to drag him on in a little bit, but he's pulling the levers and spinning the dials for us in the background. If you guys have comments, if you have questions while we're going through this tonight, Connor's going to be the one that's going to be arranging the questions, possibly supplying some answers. So just want to let you know that he's going on in the background. And of course, like I always say, tonight, any night we do Museum Ship Mafia, we cannot do this without subscribers and viewers watching us do our thing. So if you have questions, comments, throw them up in the comments section and we will get to them. Let us know where you're watching from. Which YouTube channel are you on? Are you on History X? Are you on the Buffalo Naval Park? Are you on the USS Slater? Let us know where you're watching. Tell us where you're from. What's the temperature over there? That type of thing. All right, Shane.
Yes.
What is the latest from the Buffalo Naval Park?
Sure. So the latest is...
There we go.
Hey, there it is. Yeah. The latest is, our season is up and running. We're so thankful that the Canadian border has been opened now fully because we really like that we usually get about 12,000 to 15,000 Canadians that visit us. And so for the past 3 years, we have not had that. So we've really seen an uptick. We've seen an uptick in Toronto Blue Jays jerseys coming on board, and used to get the Toronto Maple Leafs jerseys on board. Not so much now. I just have to give a little dig to the Toronto Maple Leaf fans out there, if there are any. And so, yeah, events are, we're getting ready for Memorial Day. We just did World of Warships that I participated in a couple hours ago. And so there's really a lot of energy and movement. Today we had about 50 volunteers from a local bank doing some work on the USS Little Rock, and they come back tomorrow, and they'll be doing some more work, scraping and painting and things like that. And so we're thankful to these. We're really upping our volunteer game to match, say, the USS Slater, the USS Kidd, and other museum ships. So There's a
Well,
lot of
and before we get to the Slater, let me ask you this: what is the deal with the World of Warships? You said you had something going on today. What was that all about?
Yeah, so the World of Warships is a gaming platform, if you guys don't know, and hopefully everyone knows. And they do what's called the longest night in the museum. And so they are working with, I think it was, they said 23 museum ships around the world. And there is a video, it's either live or pre-recorded, that goes 20 minutes, a half an hour, and then they do a 15-minute live session Q&A after the after that video. And so I did that about 6 o'clock to about 6:45 or Eastern Standard Time, and then the USS Codd was on right after us. So
Okay.
I watched a little of good old Paul Ferrace in Cleveland. So
Yeah, and we've had Paul on before. I think it was
Yeah.
at the end of last year. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had Paul on. Let's see. All right.
They have a YouTube channel going now, by the way.
Who's that? The Cod?
The COG. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. We'll have to check it out.
Really excellent.
What's the latest going on with the Slater, John?
Yeah, season is underway. 2 weeks now? 2 weeks ago, we had our spring work week. Very successful, despite the rain on almost every single day. We had roughly 30 volunteers from around the country, some as far away as Seattle, Washington, come on out and live on the ship for an entire week and just work on a bunch of projects. Frank, who's in chat right now, he visited the Buffalo Naval Park on his way out to see the Slater. And
Good old
he
Frank.
stayed on board. Yeah. That's about it. We don't really have much going on right now. We are just I don't know when our next live stream is. I don't quite remember, but
You mean for Museum Ship Mafia?
for June. But this
It's always
in
going to be
exactly 4
the second
weeks.
Wednesday. The second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll talk about it again then. In exactly 2 weeks from today, we'll be having our Death Cell final reunion in Albany. So that's all we got going on right now.
Well, and I saw on your Facebook page, when you always talk about the volunteers, I'm always amazed at the turnout you get for volunteers at the Slater. But you even had a picture of one of the guys installing a cryptograph machine.
Oh, that, yes. So we have an electronic cipher machine on loan from the NSA Museum. It's the cipher machine that would have been used on most warships during World War II. There's only a few left in the world, and
I should have grabbed a picture of it
fortunate.
to put up here. It was pretty cool.
It's very cool. Yes,
Yeah.
the code was never broken. But 20 years ago, our director Tim Rizzuto, they were stripping the USS Clamp. I believe it was in California, and he saw the safe for ECM, and he knew what it was immediately. But we did not have the machine, so he grabbed the safe regardless, and it's been sitting in our wardroom for 20 years. We finally have something to put in it. So
Yes.
I love it. He grabbed the safe. Well,
He's a
so
hoarder.
for those of you that aren't aware, the USS Slater, obviously they have their YouTube channel. Check out. You can search for them, USS Slater on YouTube. But they also have a very active Facebook page. Just search for USS Slater, and you're going to see all kinds of the volunteer activity up there. So it's pretty cool stuff to check out. Let's see here. I want to drag Connor on real quick. Like I said, he's working for us behind the scenes, but at the Alexander Henry, and of course we had Connor on, I want to say in February, telling us all about the Alexander Henry. So he's helping us out behind the scenes, but they just went through a rebranding.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, Connor? Was that yesterday or the day before? When did you guys?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Okay. So I thought this was pretty interesting because I'm always a fan of, if a museum ship's been doing something, the same thing for the last 30 years and it's not relevant anymore, then you got to just reboot. And so I liked seeing something like this. Why, take a few moments and tell us what you got going on.
Well, I did kind of talk about it during our show back in February. But basically, we have rebranded now officially. We were known as the Lakehead Transportation Museum Society, but we are now known as the Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay. And
Hmm.
the reason behind this was because the name Lakehead, our region hasn't been referred to as the Lakehead in 53 years now on any official documents. So at this point, if someone's coming to the city for tourism, they're looking for things to see in Thunder Bay. So they're looking for that, and they weren't finding us because we were still called Lakehead, which was, while it's a very cool name, or it's a name that's been around for a long time, it is not relevant to the modern tourist industry in our city. So we decided to rebrand, but keep the transportation aspect, because our goal is to eventually represent all aspects of transportation. Right now, the Henry is really the only thing we have, so we only really have the sea and a little bit of the train covered, but we still have other stuff to do. But that's what we're kind of saying, that this is our goal for the future. This is what the name we're going forward with.
So it's still going to be www.tmtb.ca, correct?
Yeah, www.tmtv.ca.
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't aware, Connor Kilgore, one of the volunteers at the Canadian Coast Guard icebreaker Alexander Henry, which is on display in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Check them out, www.tmtb.ca. And as I said a little bit ago, you can also come across Connor. He is one of the admins of the Museum Ships Facebook group. 70,000 followers. It's a pretty active group, so I highly recommend you check them out. Yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, I'll let you get back to your Fletchers, and I'll continue controlling things behind the scenes. But I wish everyone here a great 2023 season. Ours is just starting next week.
Yeah. Well, all right. Yeah, get to work.
Same to you, Connor.
We're shutting you down. Let's see. All right.
I gotta say though, right?
What's that?
Hulk Hogan's Tights has been asking for these hats. All right. These are ones that we got in Iowa. All right,
Okay.
but we have them now for the Buffalo Naval Park. And so they have the DDG 68 and the DD 537, the 5 gold stars. So these are now, I think they've just been added to our gift shop. So I think that will make Hulk Hogan's Tights pretty happy, hopefully. And for anyone else, this is a beautiful hat. So I had to say that.
Just so anyone's aware, Hulk Hogan's Tights is one of the followers, subscribers to the Buffalo Naval Park. I believe that's what the story is behind that guy.
Yeah, he's involved with us, you know.
All right. Well, let's see. So tonight, like I said at the opening, we are going to be talking about the 80th anniversary of the commissioning of the USS Charrette, which eventually became the HS Velos. This is actually a pretty cool logo created by Park Stevenson, who we're going to be bringing the guys on from the Kidd in a little bit. There's a picture of the Charrette, which eventually became the HS Velos and is one of only 4 Fletcher-class destroyers remaining on the planet, and it is somewhere over in Greece. So John Epp is going to be taking us through that. Let's see, and I want to now, a lot of moving parts to this, but I want to now get the guys from the Kidd up here. So I'm going to be pulling up Tim and Parks. Let's see. All right. So there's Tim and there's Parks.
Hello.
All right. Park Stevenson and Tim Nesmith of the USS Kidd. Are you guys all dialed in?
Ready for launch.
Excellent. Let's see here. So Tim Nesmith, ship superintendent at the USS Kidd. Park Stevenson, who is the museum director at the Kidd. Is that correct? Am I getting that right?
Something like that.
All right. This guy, for those of you that aren't aware, not only is he the director of the USS Kidd, he's also been making appearances through all the BBC outlets. And this is just I'm sorry, it's an unfortunate picture, but I grabbed this screenshot of Parks doing an interview with the BBC, one of many interviews with the BBC about the latest news
Oh,
about
yeah.
the USS, or I'm sorry, about the HMS Titanic, the 3D rendering that went on. So how many interviews did you do?
As the sun has gone westward around the planet, I've been picking up everything from UK to the US. Had Argentina today, Brazil later tonight, Australia. I've got New Zealand later tonight. I've got a revisit with CNN on Saturday when I have duty aboard the ship. That'll be fun. I'm all interviewed out.
Yeah.
Between Tim painting the hull today and me on constant interviews, I've done over 20 interviews in the past couple of days.
Wow.
You
look exhausted.
We are exhausted. We are exhausted.
It was
I am
good,
so
John.
tired of staring into this camera and talking to virtual people. You have no idea.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but leave it to John to actually point that out. And I also want to thank Connor for pointing out. I called it the HMS Titanic, and he actually corrected me. He said it is the RMS Titanic. So that was my mistake.
Only when she's carrying mail. Otherwise, she's SS Titanic.
Oh yeah.
RMS
Screw
was the
steamer.
designation given to her to carry the Royal Mail. If she wasn't, and that gave her special privileges, docking privileges, things like that. And if she was not carrying Royal Mail, she was just a steamship, Titanic.
No kidding. Oh,
Well, she only had one voyage, and she was carrying Royal Mail, so RMS Titanic.
good point. She did only have one voyage. And let's see. So Tim was painting the
hull. Sides of the ship.
Yeah, you were painting the hull. So what do you guys have coming up real quick at the USS Kidd Veterans Museum?
Well, painting, and more painting for me and the guys working with me. This week we have had nothing but tours, school tours, wrapping up end of year field trips, overnights. Memorial Day is coming up. We'll be open. We usually, years ago, we had a memorial service every year for that. Department of Veterans Affairs is located right down the street from us. So they've kind of taken on the pomp and circumstance of the ceremonies. We just stick with some educational stuff. We have a memorial plaza with all Louisiana natives killed in action from the American Revolution to modern day, engraved and granite in a courtyard. And so we've collected over the years maybe about 100, 150 photographs of these people with some basic information. And they're printed out, laminated photographs of them with information on the back and hung by dog tag chains. And we hang those up outside the museum building, right outside of the exit or the entrance for the Memorial Plaza. And people come by and see those. And it puts a face to the name and kind of tells them a little bit about the person. And every year we just remind everybody we would love to get all 7,000 names, all 7,000 pictures. Right now we're only around 150, but anybody who sees it and knows one of the folks and has access, we'd love to add them to the collection.
And where would they submit that through USSKid.com?
Yes, they can go to info@usskid.com and let us know they've got it, and they'll put them in touch with the right person. We'll tell them, what kind of DPI we need on the scans for the pictures so that they won't fuzz up, pixelate, and what kind of information we're looking for. Really, any kind of information about them. Just it makes it more applicable to somebody. Oh, he played football in high school. I played football in high school, and it draws connections, makes them real.
Connor threw the website address up there a little bit ago. Again, USSKid.com. Of course, thanks, Connor. And then, of course, you can also find their YouTube channel, USS Kidd Veterans Museum. Simply get on YouTube and search for USS Kidd Veterans Museum, and you'll check out their channel. One other thing that I wanted to mention about the Kidd, and did this last month. There is, if you're on History X, if you're watching us on History X tonight, there is a donate button in the lower right-hand corner for any kind of donations you want to throw the way of the Kidd. They are looking at getting into dry dock, just like the USS Sullivan's is. So check out that donation option. Of course, you can also throw your support behind them at their website, USSKid.com. when we were on last month, I mentioned this once. But there was already a round of donations, a little over $100. So if you want to support what the Kidd is doing and preserving that ship, definitely click on that donate button. 100% of the proceeds from YouTube go right to the USS Kidd. So they would definitely appreciate your support. That's why.
And when they come to the USS Kidd, those funds go directly to our maintenance supports. So that's it doesn't go into anybody's pocket. It goes right to our vendors. Right now, it goes to the paint company.
Yeah, because I'm sure paint's not cheap for all you guys.
Paint is insane nowadays.
Yes,
Oh my
it
gosh.
is.
And then the last representative of the Fletchers, I want to bring up Buzz from the USS Cassin Young. We had Buzz on, I want to say it was March, and let's see, there he is.
Hello.
Hey, Buzz.
All right. So we tried to bring Buzz on last month when we were talking about the commissioning of the Kidd. Unfortunately, we had some internet issues, but looks like you're working tonight.
I'm working off my phone. I had the same problems. I got a hold of tech support and I have the wrong browser on my desktop. You guys were all breaking up. The pixels were going crazy. So I shifted to my phone.
Gotcha. Well, we're glad you did that. We're glad to have you on. Like I said a few moments ago, we had Buzz on back in March. USS Cassin Young. What's going on with the Cassin Young over there in Boston?
I've been reminded, first thing I have to say is I'm not speaking for the National Park Service or the U.S. government in any fashion. This is Buzz as part of the Friends of the Cassin Young.
Friends of the Cassin Young. Got it.
Yep. I got reminded. So anyhow, we've got several new volunteers coming aboard. We've been told by the park that they're actually starting to make the blocks for our next dry docking, which would be somewhere 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
Well, that's so everyone's looking to go into dry dock at some point.
Well, the ships are 80 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. These ships 80 years old, as we've learned in the past when we've been talking about when the Sullivans came, started taking on water, the hull only 3/8 of an inch thick in places. That's when it was new. That's when it was right at commissioning. 80 years takes a toll, and the Cassin Young sits in salt water. So I'm sure you guys have a lot to deal with there.
Yeah, I just tried to show you a picture of the hull from the last time. Let's see if I can get it up in front of my face here. There's a piece, and there's the thickness of the hull. Oh, you can kind of measure it against my nose.
That was the thickness when it was new. I mean, so in 80 years, there's a lot of deterioration that goes on there.
Yes.
Definitely. Let's see. So as Buzz pointed out a few moments ago, if you want to check out the Cassin Young, Friends of the Cassin Young on Facebook. And that's the best place to find out what the latest is going on with the Cassin Young, correct?
Yes, we try to post something every time the volunteers are aboard, which is Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Got it. All right. Well, we're here today. We've got all these guys from the Fletchers around the world on here. Like I said, a lot of moving parts. And they're all on here today because we are talking about the commissioning or the 80th anniversary of the commissioning of the USS. Is it the Charrette? Is that the proper pronunciation?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's how
Yep.
I say.
Got it. And the Charrette, after World War II, was handed over to the Greek Navy, and John Epp, curator at the USS Slater, is going to kind of give us a little bit of the history behind what is now known as the Velos. And I'll tell you what, it's a fascinating story. There's a little bit of, actually quite a bit of bravery behind it. So, John, do you want me to just hand it over to you?
Sure. We'll see if this works.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, I've got some pictures of the Velos up ready to go too.
Let's see.
And while you're doing that, like I said, the Velos handed over to the Greek Navy. Actually, before John takes over real quick, I want to, this is kind of cool. So, in talking about the Velos, obviously this is a picture of the Velos with the Greek flag on the transom. But what the other Fletchers stateside have been doing, picture of the Greek flag flying from the USS Kidd. Picture of the guys at Cassin Young holding a Greek flag in front of the Cassin Young. Buzz, as I understand, you weren't allowed to actually fly that on the ship, correct?
Correct.
That's good to know. All right. And the Buffalo Naval Park, you can kind of see it off there in the distance, the Greek flag flying on the USS the Sullivans. Shane, are you the one that gets to hoist that up there?
I did today, yes. I did not do the Jolly Roger for the Kidd, but I did this one, and that's always fun.
Gotcha. So, yeah, and there's another picture of the Greek flag on the Velos. So, John Epp, what do you have for us?
All right. Let's see, which window? Here we go. All right. We see that okay?
Yeah. Looks good.
All right. For anyone's wondering why I'm the one talking about the Velos, or the Charrette, we were unable to get them to come on our little talk show. And since the Slater was in the Greek Navy for 40 years, the same period the Velos was, I was assigned this task. So, USS Charrette, DD 581. We'll start with a little history. The namesake. A lot of people believe destroyer escorts, they're named after sailors who fall in battle. Not the case with the Charrette, actually. Named after George Charrette, who was born in 1867 in Massachusetts. He was in the Spanish-American War. He was a gunner's mate, 3rd class. And he volunteered with 7 others to scuttle the Merrimack in Cuba to prevent Spanish ships from escaping, essentially. Very elaborate plan. They strapped a bunch of torpedoes to the hull, and they would electronically detonate it after steering the Merrimack into the harbor channel. They did have a dinghy towed behind the Merrimack to hopefully get off and get picked up. It failed. As they were approaching the channel, the shore battery spotted them, fired at them, damaged their steering gear, and the Merrimack actually went off course and more or less grounded herself. Did not block the channel really whatsoever. Only 3 of the torpedoes actually detonated. Apparently some of the batteries were damaged as well. They did escape, all of them. None of them were killed, but they were all captured by the Spanish. However, a month later, they were swapped in a prisoner exchange. They all had the Medal of Honor awarded to them. And Charrette, he had a 40-year career in the Navy. He passed away in 1938. And then in World War II, they began building a new Fletcher, and they decided to name it after George Charrette. So here we have the Charrette in Boston in August of 43, shortly after her commissioning. So she was laid down in February of 1942 in Boston, launched in June, and commissioned almost a year later in 1943. And Eugene Carp was her first CEO. He was only the CEO of the ship for a short while. Her main theater was in the Pacific. She arrived at Pearl Harbor in October of 43. Mainly screening operations in the Marshall Islands, Macon, Tarawa. But she does have a history with a destroyer escort. In February of 44, around the Marshalls, a battleship made sonar contact, or radar contact rather, with a Japanese submarine. The Charrette guided the Everett-class destroyer escort Fair, DE-35, in for a depth charge attack, and the Fair was successful in sinking the sub. Now, all the sources I've looked at for this kind of seem to differ on which sub was sunk. I've seen I-21, 175, and RL-39. Not exactly sure which one was sunk, but they all seem to differ for some reason. And she, of course, continued screening operations into the spring and summer of 44. June 15th, she sank a Japanese freighter in conjunction with another destroyer, the Boyd. 112 survivors were recovered by the Charrette. And then we get to the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. She actually played an important role, not in necessarily shooting down aircraft, but in guiding our own planes back to their carriers in the middle of the night by using their signal lamps. And any pilots that were forced to ditch in the water, the Charrette rescued them. In September, she did splash numerous planes. And afterwards, she actually screened the cruisers Canberra and Houston. They were damaged, and she helped bring them back to port. After this, we get to Leyte Gulf, and she was part of the carrier group heading north. It was part of the distraction force in October. More carrier screening into 1945. And then she takes a little break from the Pacific. She, from February to late May, she returned to the United States to Puget Sound for an overhaul and some repairs, and then returned to the Pacific for the Borneo operations. In August, she and another destroyer, the Cooner, they approached a ship. They had actually been tracking this ship during the nighttime, and then they discovered it was actually a Japanese hospital ship. They sent a boarding party on over, and while it was a hospital ship, they discovered able-bodied troops as well as a stash of ordnance. So they took everyone prisoner and escorted it back to Morotai. War ends. In September, she did a little more escort duty, escorting occupation forces to China. And then in December, right before the new year, she arrived back in the United States and enters reserve. And then in 1959, she was transferred to Greece and renamed Velos.
Oh, it wasn't until 1959 that she was transferred to Greece.
Yeah, she had a little bit of time just sitting in the reserve fleet.
Okay.
And for anyone wondering, Velos means arrow in Greek.
Oh, I like how you did that, John. That's nice.
No, Shane, it was totally unintentional. I did not know I had done that until like an hour ago when I was looking at things.
Nice.
Yes.
Well done.
So, a detailed history on the Velos for her 30-year career in the just shy of 30-year career in the Greek Navy. Couldn't really find much. Same deal with the Slater. Like, we don't know anything about the Slater's Greek service. But you can make some assumptions. She did participate in most of the major Greek naval exercises, including most NATO exercises. There we go. Turkey and Greece, they're always butting heads. So she did play a role in the Aegean Sea crises that popped up over the decades during the Cold War. But what she's probably most famous for happened on May 25th, 1973. Something you don't really see too often in the Navy. During a NATO exercise, her commander learned that some naval officers that he actually worked close with back in Greece were arrested and tortured in Greece by the military junta. Now, the junta, or the regime of the colonels, was a right-wing military dictatorship that overthrew the government a month before the elections of 1967, and they ruled until 1974. And Commander Pepes was not a fan of them. He was a constitution guy. He was all democracy. He did not like the junta. He had actually been part of a secret group of really naval officers that were hoping to overthrow the junta eventually. They were working on it. However, some of the officers that were arrested in this were also part of that plan. And so he realized hope was probably lost. So he decided to defect. Well, not defect, but political asylum. He called all of his crew onto the stern of the Velos. He told them what was going on back home in Greece and explained that he wanted to seek political asylum in Italy and try to work from there to overthrow the junta. They all supported him 100%. So he contacted NATO headquarters, and he quoted the preamble of the North Atlantic Treaty to NATO headquarters themselves, saying all governments are determined to safeguard the freedom, common heritage, and civilization of their peoples, founded on the principles of democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. And he used this as a basis to depart their formation, and they set course for Italy, ultimately anchoring a few miles off the coast, and they sent a whaleboat to shore and eventually to Rome. And a press conference was held the next day with the commander, where he explained the entire situation. Now, we got to remember, back in the 70s, there was no social media or anything. So the world wasn't really in tune with what was going on in Greece as much as they would be today. So him exposing everything that's going on was shocking, and actually did help overthrow the junta a year later. The commander, 6 officers, and 25 petty officers all requested asylum. The entire crew of the Velos wanted to do the same, but they were told not to, and actually to return to Greece, for fear that the junta would retaliate against their families. A month later, Velos did return to Greece with some new officers, but the 32 men that requested asylum stayed in Italy and worked behind the scenes until the fall of the junta in 1974 in July. He continued his naval career, ultimately retiring as an admiral, and he passed away in 2013. He had cancer. And today, the Velos isn't only a museum dedicated to telling the history of the ship, but it's actually the museum of the struggle against the dictatorship, where they tell the story of the struggle of the Greek people against the junta. For the past 21 years, she's been moored in Thessaloniki. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry.
Thessaloniki.
Thank you, Shane.
It's close.
And this I found very curious. €2 for general admission. That's $2.16.
Huh.
Wow.
So it sounds like we need to lower our prices, gentlemen.
Can't say that. So wait a second. So why is it so hard? Okay, if you found out what they're getting for general admission, why
What's
is
on
it
the
so hard to figure out what the deal is? At least I had a hard time figuring out, what the current state of the Velos is. So were you in contact with them, or did you find a website?
Nope. I've tried contacting multiple museums and archives in Greece. I've tried contacting the Velos. I've never really had much contact. Just the basic histories here and there.
Also, keep in mind that Velos is still a commissioned ship in the Hellenic Navy.
It is. Yep.
It is?
It's still considered in
Yes.
commission, yes.
Really?
Like our
So she's still
Constitution.
seaworthy.
Oh, like the Constitution. Okay. All right.
And I forgot to add it to this. But was it back in March, I believe, or was it April? A storm blew in and she got a little bit of damage. I think her hull was breached a little bit in a storm.
Yeah, she was sheltered in Athens for a good long while, but political fortunes change in Greece, and she was eventually ushered out of Athens and sent up to Thessaloniki, which is not a protected harbor, and that's why she suffered the storm damage she did. So if she had remained in Athens, if she would have been allowed to remain in Athens, she was in a better protected harbor there. So yeah, you have to read between the lines on some of these things when you're talking about Greece.
Oh, you know what? I forgot. Here's a couple photographs.
Yeah. Okay.
So all these photographs are from navsource.org. I highly recommend if anyone's interested in museum ships, which I'm assuming you are. Some great resources, some great photographs there. And they also list, for most ships, all the commanding officers, which is just a huge help when you're doing research. So
Great
this is the same
resource.
photograph from earlier. And they're all user submitted photographs as well.
Whoa.
If you want your name on a website, submit a photograph. This is the Velos in Italy. More or less the same day when they moored. So that's their launch. You can see all their sailors. I gotta say, I love the Greek uniform, short shorts and everything. I love. This is from NavSource again. This cartoon. It's from an Australian, but it's the junta, the statue, and then the Velos crushing it. Just thought it was really cool. These are all Fletchers in Greece. I can tell you which ones.
Wait. Go back to that picture. Those are all. I love how they're all lined up like that.
Yeah. So which ones we got? All right. We have. This is 1979. The Kimon, which was the Ringgold DD 500. There's the Wadsworth DD 516, the Aulick 569, the Connor 582, the Hall 583, and Velos. There's also some LSTs as well in these dry docks.
Look at that.
And there she is today.
Really?
Wow. What I love about this, and that shows it really well, is that she is in a very similar configuration as the Sullivans. Missing Mount 53, but she has the Mark 56 computer or director for the 3-inch on the aft superstructure right above the deck house. That is awesome.
And I'm assuming the damage was running against the seawall here, but I don't quite remember.
She was thrown against that seawall. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You see
Sideways,
that
or
she's-
is it the transom?
She's normally moored stern side to the dock there. That's how they normally have her. But the storm threw her up against the dock.
Wow.
Now, when you hear something like that, and if there's any kind of a government situation where it's like, well, should we continue to fund this? Should we not? I mean, so when you hear about the Velos being pushed into the pier or the shore like that, what do you think the chances are that that'll be the end of the ship?
My understanding is it wasn't major damage. I believe they're open.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to scrap the ship, and it is still a museum ship for them. So, but we stand ready to scavenger if they do.
Yeah, I'll bet there's all kinds of stuff on there that you guys could make use of. So when you talk about the Charrette being transferred over to the Greek Navy in the late 50s, I was kind of surprised to learn when I was talking to Parks earlier today on the phone that that's not the only situation where we've transferred ships to other countries. Parks was talking about Japan. I was talking to Shane about that this is a common practice. I'll be blunt; it's one I don't know much about. So I mean, what can you guys tell me about that?
Well, Greece did get the biggest number of Fletchers. She ended up with 10 Fletchers in the Hellenic Navy, but overall there were 60 Fletchers that found themselves in foreign service.
60
after the war. 60 Fletchers, yes.
Yeah.
They went to Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Greece, as we've talked about, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Peru, South Korea, Spain, Republic of China, Turkey, and West Germany. Now, West Germany would transfer hers over to Greece later, and that would be why one of the reasons why Greece received the bulk of the Fletchers, a sixth of the Fletchers that went in foreign service.
And I think more recently,
45.
oh, sorry.
No, real quick. Yeah, 45 DEs were transferred after the war as well. So yeah, it's pretty wide.
And a lot of Sumners and Gearings as well.
Yeah.
But as Tim and I were talking about earlier today, where you see these countries where these Fletchers went to, basically you're seeing the American Navy putting their ships out there on the front lines against communism, part of that containment strategy that was started in the 50s and was a good part of our Cold War strategy till the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Mm-hmm.
So the Fletchers were on the front line even after World War II.
Yeah, and I think more recently, I think it's Turkey has received about 23 or 24 of our frigates that we've put out of commission or given to them. You know, they go out of commission here and then immediately into commission in the other foreign navies. So I think, since maybe 1999 to present, they've received maybe even 30 frigates from us, FFs and FFGs from us. I think it's Turkey. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, the ship I was on, the Miller, was transferred to Turkey after it was decommissioned a few years in the boneyard in Philly, and then off to Turkey for parts.
And what was the Miller?
It was an FF 1091.
Okay.
I also loved
it's a destroyer escort. Yeah. It's a box class. Yeah.
If you're talking more modern ships, the second USS Kidd DDG 993 is currently in service with the Navy of the Republic of China, and so she may see war pretty soon. Maybe not, but
Let's hope not.
Do you know if they ever fly the Jolly Roger?
They inherited the pirate legacy from us, as well as the USS Kidd DDG 100. It's currently serving the U.S. Navy, but 993 was not so. She didn't show her pirate colors too much during her career, not as much as 661 and 100.
Some of her COs were a little more stricter about going by the book.
Interesting. What I love, John, about your presentation that I did not know is that the Charrette was then part of Crip Div 1 with the Houston and Canberra along with the Sullivans, protecting and screening those two cruisers there and labeled Crippled Division 1 from Admiral Halsey. So that was nice that you shared that. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, John's presentation pointed out a few things. I definitely want to look up that story.
Which one's that?
Well, you get about the Charrette in the what was that in the 1867?
Oh yeah, George Charrette. Yeah.
You're talking about electronic torpedoes and batteries, and it's like I'm going. That was going on in 1867.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And
No. Charrette was born in 1867.
It was Spanish-American War.
Yeah, he's talking about the Spanish-American War.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, but still, I mean, okay. So it's not as all right, but the Spanish-American War was give me a
1898.
date. Okay.
Yes.
So
Right.
still, I'm just still surprised that that kind of technology existed 120 some years ago.
Well, let's have a little education here.
Please,
So
Parks.
where do destroyers come from? Where does the name destroyer come from? It was originally from the torpedo boat destroyers that were created to counter the new technological threat that came into being in the late 1880s, the self-propelled torpedo. So torpedoes were coming online before the Spanish-American War, and destroyers were invented to counter that torpedo. Later, they put torpedoes into submarines, and then the destroyers concentrated on the submarines. And World War II, we've got a multi-purpose platform that can do just about anything.
Yeah, I also read that they were a counter to battleships as well. Battleship growth in 1895 with the second-class battleships that really propelled other countries who couldn't afford to build a battleship as a potential counteraction for a battleship. That's what I've read, but I don't know if that's true. But
yeah, well, the Fletchers would be carrying 10 torpedoes, which were meant for surface ships. And we've got several examples of Fletchers who did use them against surface ships and successfully.
Actually, Connor was talking to us earlier before we went live. He has discovered a model of the Melvin, which was a Fletcher, and I dug into it before we went live. And Melvin actually was credited with sinking the battleship Fuso with her torpedoes.
Yeah, and oh gosh, what was?
Is this the Velos right here?
Yes,
yeah.
Velos, yes.
Very well maintained.
Wow.
Look at that.
Look at
Beautiful.
that.
Well, I didn't realize it was still in commission, as Parks pointed out, in commission with the Greek Navy. And John mentioned, a couple of different times, one of the reasons why the Slater is in the condition that it's in is because it served in the Greek Navy up until the 90s, correct?
Yeah, 1991.
Yeah.
And they dry docked her after they decommissioned her in 91 before there was ever discussions with us to get it back. And then in 93, they dry docked her again in preparation to give the ship to us. So
yeah,
she was in pretty good condition.
When you see pictures like this, like of the torpedo tubes, and first of all, Tim's point about, sinking a battleship with the torpedoes, you can see the torpedo tubes right here. I could see why Parks would, if they do decide to scrap the Velos.
We've got claims on those 3-inch 50s, though, Ken.
Okay, you can have the 3-inch 50s. I want the torpedo mount.
Okay. Buzz, what do you want?
Now, our Greek viewers were not trying to take Velos.
Not a strip trip here. That's just...
We are honoring Velos today and her parts.
Careful, these guns might still work.
Do they have their practice loader, their 5-inch practice loader, for gosh sakes? We'd love to see that, but it looks like that might be where the practice loader would have been, portside near the.
No, there's no practice loader that I've seen on any photograph of Velos. It's gone.
What is that behind Shane and John's pictures there?
I can't.
That looks like a practice
I could
loader.
have sworn I
zoom
saw
in
a
enough.
travel blog that showed it.
I don't.
Yeah, that's your practice loader right there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they moved it over there. Okay. That's why I couldn't see it in other photos that I looked at.
That's what it is in front of the darkened area.
It looks like it to me. It looks a little different from ours, but
it doesn't.
What is a practice loader?
A practice loader is basically a mock-up of the interior of one of the 5-inch guns, and the gun crews get around it and train on it so that they get the physical motions of loading and firing and moving the projectiles and the powder casings for loading and unloading.
If that's a practice loader, it doesn't look like ours or any other.
No, it doesn't look like ours.
Yeah,
that's a weird one. Or I would consider it weird because I'm not used to it. But I don't know. She doesn't have the standard practice loaders that we have on our ships. This may be something else.
Yeah, I zoomed in a little bit. It actually looks like there's a computerized gun sight at the top of that tower. To me, like it's the rectangle and it has that. Oh, you found it?
I'm pretty sure I found it.
Wait, hold on. Let me switch to another. See that doesn't have it. I want to see if any of these other pictures. I guess not. I thought I had. What is that a different view? Does that help? Not really.
It is a different view of it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a different view, and I don't know. What
Maybe
that
it's not. I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
There it is.
There's
Yeah.
Yeah,
There it
that's
is.
it.
It's on starboard side.
Okay.
Oh, so there, yes, their practice. There's the torpedo tube above.
It is.
Right.
Yeah,
So
same
it's
location as Cassin Young.
Really? Okay. We obviously need to know more about each other's ships.
Yeah.
So you
Road
know it's
trip.
steel.
Road trip.
There ain't no road where she's at.
Well, okay, wait.
We have
I
to take a
still
flight.
don't understand though. Okay, okay. So you explained, yeah, this is where they can practice, operating the gun, loading the gun, that type of thing. Why wouldn't you just? Why do you need this taking up space on the deck of a ship? Why wouldn't you just practice in the middle of the the Mark 31 housing? Why wouldn't you just practice at the gun?
In the actual gun?
In the
Yeah.
actual
Actual mount. The Mark
Well,
31. Yeah.
With this one, you're out in the open, so it's not quite as hot for one thing, because those enclosed mounts trap a lot of heat. The other thing is the chief can walk around the mount, and I'm surmising. I have not been in the Navy. I was not on a Fletcher. I have not messed with these, but your chief can move around and observe all the guys from behind them as they're operating without those enclosed mounts cramping him up. And he can, make suggestions, I would assume, because they actually fire the little wooden bullet up. It drops into it. It hits the end of the barrel and drops into a tray, and then they pick it up and put it right back over. They're just getting the motions down. So that would be my guess.
Yeah, you have to have muscle memory with this stuff because you're firing 12 to 20 a minute. You can't be thinking about what you're doing. You have to actually just mechanically do it. We actually have a practice powder can that was given to us. And what I've found so far is we have a practice projectile that was solid brass. They didn't want to, of course, you don't want to practice with any live cans or live projectiles. So this allows you to have a minimal amount of that. And I got a kick out of that. The chief can make suggestions. Being a former chief, yeah, right.
I'm sure the DiNozzo movement actually occurred long before NCIS ever came along.
And Ken, also in a operating mount, there are 11 men in there at once. It's not just a single or two or three. There's 11 men.
Okay.
So it's a ballet that has to be practiced before you go into the enclosure.
Yeah, there was Shane was nice enough to do a video of the process that would go on inside one of those mounts. We did it for one of the viewers. They had a question about what their uncle would have been going through on the USS Johnston before it went down. And yeah, that was a pretty interesting situation. But then you just reminded me, yeah, there's 11. Oh, hey, look at that.
So a little different, but that's the Slater. That's the Slater's 3-inch practice loader. That's the crew.
Oh,
You kind of get an idea what's going on.
Yeah.
yeah. It's probably now that triggers it could be for study for other gun crews. To stand there and watch and to analyze along with the chief, petty officer, along with the chief or senior chief, right? Yeah. So it could be something that other people can have eyes on in other gun crews and teams.
But Shane,
Interesting
remind
competitions.
So
Who's going to be the better gun crew?
Yeah.
Right.
So the Sullivans does not have a practice loader, correct?
Correct. We do
But
not.
the Kidd and the Cassin Young, they both do.
Yes.
Yes.
And clearly we were looking at pictures of the Velos, and so wow, I never knew something like that existed. So I appreciate you guys kind of giving me a little bit of education on that.
Yeah. Okay. That makes me angry.
There is.
I didn't realize all three of you had the practice loader.
There is no longer any practice loader aboard Johnston or Samuel B. Roberts. I can tell you that.
Oh, because it was blown away.
Well, Johnston broke right there where the practice loader is.
I see.
It was wiped off the deck, and on Sammy B, it just came off somehow. along with the torpedo tubes.
Yeah.
You know, when you
Yeah, because
dive on something like
the
that,
loader would have been.
Go ahead, John.
Wait, no, the practice loader on John C. Butler was behind
back aft,
behind the mount, right? Yeah.
forward of the after mount. Yes, it's no
Yep.
longer there.
Yeah, yeah.
But neither is the deck house either.
Right.
So, yeah, no, I was kind of making a joke.
So as a piece of equipment like a practice loader, you know, if you're going down to the Johnston or the Samuel B. Roberts, well, in the case of the Samuel B. Roberts, you were one of the few that actually identified that, oh, there's a triple torpedo tube setup that kind of let you know that it was the Samuel B. Roberts. If you would have seen a practice loader just lying on the middle of the ocean floor, what would that have told you?
Given where we found Sammy B. Roberts, it possibly could have been off Johnston, or it could have been an indication of the hull.
Okay.
Or Sammy B. But yeah, if we find a practice loader lying on the bottom out there, it would have come off one of those three ships.
So you were kind of lucky that it was actually a triple torpedo tube setup that was found first.
Oh, good Lord, yes.
Because
we were going after Gambier Bay,
right,
and then when we saw the triple loader, we go with the triple torpedo mount. then the mission changed. We don't have Gambier Bay; we have Sammy B. Roberts, and maybe Gambier Bay's close by, and we didn't see her, but we found Sammy B.
Well, let's see. It's been an hour, and I wanted to, once we got to this point, I wanted to wrap things up. And was there anything, but before we do, was there anything else that you guys wanted to add about U.S. vessels, U.S. Navy vessels that made their way into foreign navies?
The longevity of them, honestly. Taiwan and South Korea and Mexico, their Fletchers served into the I think South Korea and Taiwan retired theirs in 1999, all of them, and then Mexico's last one retired in 2001. So Fletchers had long legs in service in foreign navies, and there's a lot of artifacts left over, a lot of pieces surviving. If you go to Taiwan, you'll trip over gun mounts and mast and propellers and everything from those four Fletchers that they had. So there might be a practice loader somewhere in Taiwan waiting to be put up as a monument that you might be able to find.
I will look into that. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wait, how do you know that? How do you know that, Tim? Have you been over there?
I have not been over there, but on Facebook, we started a little series about, there's only 4 Fletchers left, but there's other surviving pieces. And it started out just kind of, let me acknowledge the pieces that we know about. And we know about the Belle of the Dyson, which is one of these that went, I think she went to West Germany. We had it for a while, and then the crew asked to move it to where she was built in Orange, Texas, for a memorial over there, which we moved it over. We let them take it over there, and it's there for people to see. Freedom Park in Nebraska, in Omaha, has the nameplates for 2 of the Fletchers. They cut them off the stern and just mounted them up like signposts in their park, along with a bunch of other ships' nameplates. And we knew about the mast and the torpedo tubes for the foot, which are in Fredericksburg at the Nimitz Museum. And the more we began looking online and just searching for this running series of posts on our Facebook page, more stuff started coming out. And I was contacted by a gentleman, a retiree from the Taiwanese Navy, and he had served on one of them. And he started shooting me pictures of all sorts of stuff from Mulaney, from the Kimberly, the Twining, the Yornal, and sorry, I hit my computer. And there's a whole bunch more that he's trying to track down to identify which ship, this gun mount that's sitting underneath one of their big highway bridges is from, and everything. It's looking at the pictures of the of the 2 parks, like the military remembrance parks that he has sent me and that I found on Google. There's all sorts of military memorabilia in Taiwan. They really are invested in their military history.
There's still a destroyer escort in service, and it's in Taiwan.
Wow.
The
From
Heminger,
World War II?
from World War II. One of the DEs we
Oh,
gave them after the war. It's a training ship now, but it's still in service.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
One of the things that really strikes me when I looked at the history of these different Fletchers that ended foreign service, especially were the ones that ended up with their former enemies, like the USS Haywood L. Edwards, that was was also fought in the Battle of Surigao Strait against Fuso and Yamashiro. She ended up in Japanese service as the Araki, and and the USS Richard P. Larry, who was a Yuguri. They both fought against the Japanese in World War II, and then years later, 1959, they entered into the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force and served into the 70s. So it's I wonder what the reunions were like for those crews. I was surprised when I was studying for this thing to find out that the Herman, which was at the Battle of Leyte Gulf and was the only destroyer that went in against the Japanese and came back, ended up in Argentine service.
I think
so it was interesting to see that. I'm curious to whether she actually fought against the Brits during the fall.
She did.
Well,
she did. Let's see. She fired. I got a couple of notes here. Herman?
Yeah.
Apologize. No, I'm sorry. Cowell, one of her sister ships, fired shots at RRS Shackleton.
Yeah. It's interesting how the game board changes on you, which I guess we could segue into World of Warships on that note. But yeah, just interesting that these ships served in their former enemies' navies. But it just goes to show, and that's one thing that I always bring up to people when, like, on our Kamikaze Remembrance Day, why were we mentioning the kamikaze who died diving into Kidd? And the point is that we're no longer warships of World War II. We're museum ships of 2023. And the world has changed in that time. Our former enemies are now our staunchest allies, and we've got new enemies. And so it's interesting how, again, like I said, the game board changes with time. Anyway, that's just me musing stuff that occurred to me as I was looking into the fate of all these Fletchers that went into foreign navies.
Well,
yeah, and we also used the we also used these as incentives to to gain influence over countries as well that maybe were kind of on the fence, communism or democracy. And so there'd be the little carrots with probably the sticks a few years earlier, but now little carrots.
Well, the point is that Fletchers were always put in harm's way. Well, when they were built, or under American service in World War II, or into the Cold War, and then into foreign navies, they were always put on the front lines.
Nice.
Well, I love the stories. So, you can continue musing, because what I was going to do here was pull this picture up and say, all right, guys from the USS Kidd, Tim Nesmith, ship superintendent, Park Stevenson, museum director, what do you guys have coming up as we shut this down? So what's coming up this summer for the Kidd?
More of what we do every day.
Yeah.
Sweating.
We invite visitors to the ship. We keep it open year round, and we slowly but surely work on restoration. We've got, people ask us, why is this rusty? Why hasn't this been painted recently? Well, 300 men worked on this ship's daily maintenance when she was in service. Today we have basically 2. But we keep her with us. We are looking. I'm working out of my office with the state legislature, which is in session right now, trying to put forward a bill to get some money for dry dock. And after we get something from the state, we will pursue federal funding too, which the Sullivans gave us kind of a roadmap for. We'll be following along that path if we can, so that we can give this 80-year-old woman who hasn't seen a doctor since she was in her 20s a routine checkup.
Well, and that's one thing I want to mention again. If anyone is interested in supporting the kids' efforts to get into the dry dock and you want to make a donation, you can definitely head over to the website, which is USSKidd.com. Or if you quickly want to head over to HistoryX, like I said, you can click the button lower right-hand corner and YouTube donates or conveys 100% of the proceeds over to the kid, which Parks said earlier goes directly into maintenance.
Parks, I do want to say how you go back to your comments about how people always say stupid things. Oh, there's rust everywhere, blah blah blah. I do enjoy how you respond to people on social media. You're very blunt, and you're down like, okay, if you don't like it, come on down and paint it. Come on down. Hey, put your money where your mouth is. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tim taught me that, actually. So
I learned it from the other Tim. Which, by the way, John, I apologize. I saw on social media you go to bat for us, and the other Tim kind of spanked your hand a little bit for saying that all museum ships have rust.
Yes, but if you ask Tim when he's looking at the Slater, looks beautiful, everything dazzle. Tim, ship look good? No, I see rust everywhere. All he sees is a rust bucket when he looks at the Slater.
Yes.
Well, we were talking about that the other day, about how we had the video for today's World of Warships event, and we were reviewing it, making editing suggestions, and she looks beautiful. It's like she pops when somebody takes a picture of her or takes video of her. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I stand in that same space, and the human eye finds the tiniest flaw because we're trained to look for what's wrong. And so we can't enjoy the ship the way, say, general public does. And, they come in, oh, it looks great. Oh, the ship looks like crap, this and this and this. And I don't know. I blame Rizzuto because he taught me. So
I blame Rizzuto. He taught me.
Yeah, we all blame.
All right. Well, this is We'll have to bring this Rizzuto guy.
Podcast
Whoever this guy is,
on
we got to bring him
Tim.
on.
What's
I
that?
love the throwback photo he shared of him on the paint float. That was pretty cool.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was young.
I've
He
seen
was
some
young
young
at one
pictures.
time.
Talk to Sikowski. He'll show you some really young pictures of Tim.
Well, there's also a name that needs to be mentioned. The
Ed
guru
Sikowski,
of the
yeah.
blueprints and General Fletcher knowledge. I think Ed Sikowski has helped all of us with our ships.
Absolutely.
Is he like an expert in what the architecture of the Fletchers or destroyers in general?
He's a Master Chief.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
He would know.
Was he working or was he volunteering at Kennedy when Tim started at Kennedy?
So he's I think he's a destroyerman. In the 70s, he lives down in Pennsylvania. When they were scrapping all the ships in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, mostly destroyers or whatnot, how he tells it is he went there one day, and the holds were just full of documents and blueprints. And back then they didn't care what happened to things, so he more or less asked the strippers, the ship strippers, "Hey, can I take this stuff?" And they're like, "Yeah, take it, because it's a fire hazard for us.
Yeah.
So I believe he has thousands of manuals, blueprints.
You're
of
talking
World
about
War
Ed
II
now.
stuff.
I've heard
Yes,
his
yeah.
basement looks like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what I've
Yeah,
heard.
and then
I've never seen it.
yes, right.
It's a bucket list destination for me.
Tim Rizzuto was the superintendent, I believe, of the Joseph P. Kennedy.
I think so, yeah.
And then Ed started volunteering there, and that's how they got together. And they've
Well,
been,
so last time I was at Slater, Tim
Ed was there too.
came home. Rizzuto gave me a folder, and in there were all of the letters that he wrote to the Navy. He wanted a Fletcher class destroyer badly, and he wrote to the Navy, and they shuttled him around from desk to desk, to desk to desk to desk, and he never gave up. He never lost heart. They were blowing him off. It was obvious, but officialdom, they couldn't just say no. They just redirected him, and they kept redirecting him until finally he wore the Navy down, and that's where that seemed to coincide with the effort in Baton Rouge to get a destroyer, and so it was a marriage made in heaven.
I'll share a photograph once I find it, but you guys can keep talking amongst yourselves.
Well, we'll wrap up the Kidd here real quick. Like I was saying, if you want to support the Kidd, you can definitely get on their website, the www.usskid.com. Thank you, Connor, for pulling that up, as well as their YouTube channel. Simply just get on YouTube and search for USS Kidd Veterans Museum, and it comes right up. Nice job. And let's see, while John is looking for that picture, let's pull up Buzz real quick. And Buzz, what's the latest, or what do you guys have coming up with Friends of the Cassin Young on Facebook?
Well, we've got the Park Service seasonal employees are going to be starting next week, which means the ship will start opening daily. Right now it's just weekends, and the volunteers are opening on weekends, and they're averaging about 600 a day. Even though the ship is officially closed, we're allowed to open it up on the weekends with our staff. Big thing we've got coming.
Why are you shaking your head?
Wait, did you say 600 people a day are visiting?
That's what he said.
Yeah, that's why I did that.
Wow.
We've been open. Yeah, we don't see 600 a day. That would be. This isn't about the Buffalo Naval Park in that sense, but we hit 600 people probably 2 or 3 days a season. But you're just saying, oh yeah, 600 a day, no problem. But
and they haven't even officially opened
Constitution,
yet.
I know, right?
Yeah, we have the Constitution, and then they see the gray thing down at the end and go, "Oh, what's that?" A lot of them think we're still active duty, but we do get them. The other thing we've got coming is early June. We have Admiral Cox, who's the head of the Navy Historical Command, coming aboard. One of our volunteers used to work for him when they were both active duty, so he's been invited. And where we earned that maintenance award last year, he decided to come over and see the ship. Other than that, a lot of maintenance going on. Our one ranger aboard that does maintenance is always painting, and we're actually rehabbing our workshop on the pier. Our 92-year-old volunteer isn't able to volunteer anymore, so we're in there cleaning, spiffing up, and reorganizing.
And you had said a while ago that the National Park Service is actually starting work on the cradles in the eventuality that the Cassin Young will end up in dry dock.
Yes, correct. I believe it's about 4 to 5 years out, which gives it a 15-year from the last time, which is what their goal is. So our head of maintenance told us the other day that they'd actually started constructing them.
And Connor just popped up a question. How many volunteers do you have?
Total, we've got on paper somewhere around 20, 25. However, a lot of them don't show. We don't see them often.
Do you serve them lunch?
Pardon me?
Do you serve them lunch?
No.
Well,
Um,
you might want to start. If you start, bribe them with food is what I always say. If there's a pizza involved, I'll do anything.
It's interesting. All of our volunteers have been to leave within 30 minutes after lunch is over. It's
It's amazing, isn't it?
yeah. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but
Well, then you have to keep pushing lunch back and back. Oh, lunch is at 2:00 today, boys. It's 2:30, right?
Yeah.
we've got a core group probably of about 8 to 10, what we call the wrench turners. They're the people that actually get their hands dirty. And we've got about 4 volunteers that just do tours and don't even know one end of a screwdriver from the other. But, we're all in it for the ship.
Yeah.
And we've got some that just can't make it anymore, due to illness or age. Like our friend Hank that's just been, he calls it incarcerated in a nursing home for a while. But it works.
And for anyone that wants to learn more about the USS Cassin Young, it's best to visit on Facebook, Friends of the Cassin Young.
Uh-oh,
Correct.
Tim's on.
oh no.
Tim's been watching.
Oh, there he is.
Give them a cruiser.
Well, great. Buffalo Naval Park has both.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, speaking of Tim, I found the photograph.
It's time.
Perfect timing.
There we go. There's the crew. That's
There
from
you
last
go.
October.
Oh, yes.
So you got Parks, our cook Blair, who comes up for our work weeks, and if we have a VIP such as Parks, he'll come up and cook for him. And there's the grumpy old man Ed Zukowski. He's who we were talking about. And then our fearless leader Tim.
Dynamic duo.
And that's Tony. Yeah.
Parks, do you remember being there for this picture?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I always remember Blair's cooking.
Oh, it was good, right?
Nice.
Well, let's see. Let's get back to. Well, it's good to know Tim was watching or supervising. I don't know which is which.
True.
Let's see.
So, Tim and Parks, you guys already did your World of Warships today?
Yeah, it was I want to say 11:30 UTC.
Okay.
We were like third up. But
Gotcha.
since I was on the paint float and Parks was doing interviews, we had it pre-recorded.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Nice.
And was that just for today? There's no other, as far as you guys know, anyway.
It's just like a 24-hour. Yeah, I think they had 23 museum ships scheduled.
Okay.
If not museum ships, then museums and museum ships. I think there were a few that might not have had a ship. I don't know. I wasn't familiar with them.
So we'll make our film available on our channel.
Let's see. Moving over to the Buffalo Naval Park. I know we talked about it earlier, but what's coming up for the Buffalo Naval Park?
Just really briefly, we've got Memorial Day coming up. I think we were in a staff meeting yesterday, and we have a ceremony, Memorial Day ceremony at 9, 10, noon, 1, 3, and they're all disparate, different groups. So that's always a big weekend for us. And that usually for us means the Memorial Day weekend is like when our season really starts. And then it's just, chickens with our heads cut off until a week or so after Labor Day. So again, we had a great volunteers through a local bank today and tomorrow coming, maybe 30 to 40, doing some work on Little Rock. And so there's a lot of energy going on. For myself, we published the Arcadia book, the Buffalo Naval Park, which is 182 historic images, I think. So that's an exciting thing, and I'm proud of that. So yeah, just encampments are still going strong. I know Steven's not here tonight, but so we get 180 to 220 kids every encampment. So yeah, things are good.
And did you say you had a bunch of volunteers from various banks on board doing odd jobs?
Yeah, I think they were on today they were on the 03 level of Little Rock. near the chaff launchers and stuff. So like the bridge wings, they were scraping and painting, and then tomorrow they will continue to do that.
Awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, because I know you're always trying to build up your volunteer program. So for anyone that's interested in volunteering, Connor had it up there a little bit ago. You can check out the website, buffalonavalpark.org. Thank you, Connor. Pulled it right up there. And the videos. Shane is always posting new videos on their YouTube channel. Search for Buffalo Naval Park, or more interestingly, you can even join their members group where you get more behind the scenes access on the members section. I'm a member myself, so I always enjoy seeing that stuff. So
go ahead. Yeah, thank you. There is a comment. Do we have power restored on the Sullivans yet? So we do have power restored to the aft, though we actually haven't turned on any light fixtures or anything yet, but we know the power is running to the aft of the ship. We're having a little problem with the bus tie to the forward board. And so we have not gotten the forward board working yet, but the aft power panel is energized, and theoretically we can light up the aft of the ship.
You guys had, this was a while ago, I forget the name of the guy that was kind of on loan from the Slater, but you had some really interesting videos of trying to restore, I think it was even just temporary power to the Sullivans.
Yeah.
What was that guy's name? You had like 3 or 4 videos that were pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's this should be, John, I don't want to co-op John, but it's Barry Whitty, who is an electrician, like the master electrician for the Slater, and we contacted him, and he kind of helped. He came, and then he's been guiding one of our volunteers remotely when there's a problem. They get in communication with each other, and then Barry walks our volunteer through. So.
Yeah, Barry is very experienced. He's set up a basic private consulting firm where he wants to help all museum ships now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Rent a Barry.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Rentabarry.com, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's like I said, the videos were interesting. It's right after the Sullivans had pretty much been cleaned out, if you will, after taking on water, and so you basically followed him around and watched him connect a temporary power source to the panels. Now, me as an engineer, I found that pretty fascinating. So if those of you that are watching find those types of behind the scene videos interesting as well, like I do, check out the Buffalo Naval Park's YouTube channel, and you're going to see all kinds of stuff like that shortly after the Sullivan was cleaned out, getting things restored like power and light. So definitely check that out. And as I always say, and we're going to get to John Epp in a little bit, but as I always say, one of the best ways to support operations like the Kidd, like the Cassin Young, we'll talk to Connor about the Alexander Henry, the Slater, Buffalo Naval Park, just check out their YouTube channel and subscribe. It's one of the easiest yet most effective ways to throw support behind what they're trying to do over there. So check out their content that they're always posting. Get on Facebook as well. Become a follower on Facebook. Be a subscriber on YouTube. Again, one of the most effective ways to throw support behind those guys. So I strongly encourage you to check it out. And moving over to the Slater, John Epp, what is coming up for the Slater?
Yeah, so looking at that picture of the Slater in the background there's rust everywhere.
What a rust bucket.
Just rust. Well, speaking of rust, one of our projects going on now with our restoration crew, the ready service lockers for the 3-inch on Mount 33 has seen better days, so they're actually going to be taking those out and doing a complete overhaul of those. So it's a big project. They actually cut they cut a hole in the gun tub to get it in and out. They have trying to get a little pulley system going for it. General work on the ship is always painting going on. We just painted the port's weather deck last week before. I don't quite remember. Over the weekend, we hosted a delegation from Nijmegen, Netherlands.
What?
Albany is the sister city of Nijmegen.
Really?
after the
I know
war.
all about Nijmegen, part of the 30 Corps campaign to cross all the bridges.
Eine Brücke
Yep.
zwei.
Huh. Well, that's
Um,
interesting.
After the war ended, basically the citizens of Albany heard about the dire situation in terms of food scarcity in the Netherlands. And so they did multiple food drives and fundraisers and sent things over. And to show their gratitude, the Dutch then sent Albany tulip bulbs. And they planted tulips throughout the city. And every year, last weekend, there's a huge festival called Tulip Fest. And so a delegation from Nijmegen came last Saturday. We had a nice breakfast on the ship because we actually did give some destroyer escorts to the Netherlands after the war. So there is a connection. What else is going on? DESA, like I said at the start of the show, final reunion of DESA, which is the Destroyer Escort Sales Association, our parent organization. They were the ones who actually got the Slater and brought it back to the U.S. They're shutting their doors down. Their membership is dwindling. So they're going to hold a final reunion here aboard the ship in just a couple of weeks, June 16th to the 18th, I believe it is. So we're preparing for that. Like I say every show, we got Hensa as well in September. So Shanna's been working on all that stuff as well. Our new shoreside facility, our new gift shop is up and running.
Nice.
Barry Whitty, if you wanna come down and meet him, he's here on Saturdays. He's been installing a lot of the security cameras and whatnot.
Oh wow, he does that too. Huh?
That's it. Oh, if there's electricity involved, he is doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's John Epp, curator of the USS Slater in Albany, New York. Definitely check out the Facebook page. Like I said earlier, there's always updates talking about what the volunteers are doing. Connor had the website up there, ussslater.org. And of course, the YouTube channel, simply search for USS Slater. Well over 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel and good content there as well. And then finally, we're going to drag Connor on board real quick because I appreciate him putting up all the web addresses and highlighting everyone's comments tonight. So Connor, definitely appreciate your help. Connor, of course, a new volunteer at the Alexander Henry. He's the one that was behind the scenes pulling the levers and spinning the dials with all your questions and comments. Recently, just today, they announced that they're rebranding the whole operation, and you can check them out at www.tmtb.ca. Connor, anything that you wanted to add for the Alexander Henry?
Yes, just quickly, we do also have a new Facebook page. It's called Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay. I know John's already there, but just saying that we do have, and we're going to be adding Instagram and stuff soon as well. But yeah, that's basically.
Here, wait a second. Let me interrupt you real quick. So for Facebook, it's
the Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay.
Got it. Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. And sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No problem. And yeah, Instagram stuff. And we're roughly just under a week now. It's next Wednesday that we open finally to the public because ice is finally melted. Ice is finally melted. No joke. It only melted like 3 weeks ago.
I believe it. Yeah.
Hey, Parks, has the ice melted around the Kidd yet?
You know, I am so jealous of the Northern Brothers to get to shut down for months at a time and do some serious work on the ship while we stay open every single day.
And to answer your question, the ice in my cooler melted on the raft. Yes.
Oh, all right. So the ice in Tim's cooler melted, and the ice around the Alexander Henry has melted up in Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the iceberg that sank Titanic, I don't know where it is today.
Yeah.
She's in Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yes, we'll be opening on Wednesday. And just briefly, if you look up in the news as well, we're actually going to be doing a dockside market starting on June 5th. Thunder Bay is one of the sites for the Great Lakes cruise ships, which are coming into the Great Lakes, most notably the Viking, Octantis, and Polaris. and we are going to be hosting a dockside market because, unfortunately, just simply due to construction in the city this year, a lot of our downtown core in the north side has been basically cut off to people from the cruise ship dock. So we're giving local merchants an opportunity to essentially show their stuff right next to the cruise ship. I believe I sent you the picture, Ken, but I'm not sure if it's there. But
of the cruise ship, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, the Atlantis docks less than 20 feet from our stern, so it's a good opportunity for these vendors to sell their merchandise on our property, and it also helps the community. So that's something we'll be doing for this entire summer whenever the cruise ship is in town.
I want to pull this picture up.
There it is.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So where the Alexander Henry is, this is right behind it, often.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
very
can kind
nice.
of, it's one of the Viking ships, because the bow kind of slopes backwards, and pretty cool.
Yeah, it's about the only thing in the harbor that has a thicker hull than we have.
Then the Alexander Henry.
Yeah, because that thing goes into the Arctic.
Oh,
in
no
the winter.
kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, or Antarctic actually, but yeah.
Pretty
Wow.
cool. Pretty cool. So for the Alexander Henry, like we had said earlier, they had just announced rebranding today. Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay, www.tmtb.ca. That is pretty much it from Museum Ship Mafia. Anything else that you guys want to add?
You got anything going on?
Do I have anything going on?
Yeah, great question.
No, just keep posting videos. If you're interested in how a B-25 bomber did land on a World War II aircraft carrier,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can check out the History X YouTube channel. Just get on YouTube and search for History X channel. And also posted a video last night around this time about the Titanic and the 3D scan that everyone wants to interview Parks about. That's already at like 45,000 views, so that thing's taken off. So
Good for you. Good for
Let me
you.
get one good night of sleep, and I'll answer people's questions.
Parks does look a little exhausted. He's been busy talking about the Titanic.
Hey, Connor, would you put up the photo that I just put up there?
I'm just. How do I add a picture to the reel? Ken?
Oh yeah. If you go to, do you see present at the bottom there?
Where?
Do you see present, the little plus sign?
Oh yeah, I see it.
You should be able to click on that and pull up whatever you want.
Okay.
So this is a
slide.
lesson for all museum ships.
Okay. Hold on. Add a file. Okay, upload a file. Just give me a second here.
Yeah, take your time. You can. It should give you an option to share a screen too.
So this is a picture, if he gets it up, of something I discovered today, late in the day when I went to go board the ship to take the Greek flag down.
Okay.
I discovered something.
All right. Hold on a second. Okay. There we go. There we go.
I'm
okay.
afraid.
Share screen for a second.
Connor and John are the youngest ones here, so they should be able to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. There it is. No, that's not
Should
it.
I be afraid, Parks?
There we go.
Okay, so I came and
Yes,
found
very
that
afraid.
What?
the watch aboard the ship had forgotten that Huckleberry Finn and Jim were on a raft alongside and left for the day, stranding these two
Oh my God.
over the side.
Oh my God.
We had a backup plan.
We'll be
We could swim, right?
We'll be
Yeah.
talking to our watch standards tomorrow. Don't forget the barge alongside.
Well, wait a second. Isn't there a rope ladder hanging down that I see at the bottom of the picture? So
This is after I had lowered a rope down to them. So
Oh,
they
wow.
could,
No. You didn't lower the ladder. That was our backup plan.
no, I said lowered the rope
Yeah.
so that you could get back to the Jacob's ladder. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
so they were So this is the barge that Tim was telling us before we started tonight. He was kind of explaining off screen, or I'm sorry, before the live started. So it's a barge with scaffolding, and what you do now that there's water again around the ship, you can float around, and this is how you paint the hull.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. We're using the exact same system on Henry. We have a pontoon barge that will be pulling along the side and doing paintwork this year.
Yep.
Jeez.
And that barge was redecked courtesy of a donation from one of our longtime employees and volunteers and donors, James Landry, just to
Okay.
give him a shout out.
So is
Got
that CV661? Is that what that is? Is that?
No, we call that the Adventure Galley, which was Captain Kidd's ship, pirate ship.
Well,
Excellent.
and so we'll wrap this up. Like I always say, apologies to Ryan Szymanski at the Battleship New Jersey for not being able to fit him in this evening. We just ran long, so we'll try and get him in some other time. Appreciate his patience. And for audio versions of the Museum Ship Mafia
Hey, Steve.
podcast, you can definitely check out Museum Ship Mafia or search for Museum Ship Mafia on your favorite podcast platform. Any final goodbyes, guys?
Apologies to Rob for getting silenced for whatever reason.
Yeah, that was my fault. I was trying to bring it up, but I accidentally hit something else instead.
Oh, blocked.
Oh.
That's my dad, by the way. He's watching tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
I've met Rob. He was in that picture earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you'll pay for that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you find it, Ken, it's
What's that?
no. My dad actually appeared in one of those slides. Yeah, he was actually wearing the History X hat during our press conference.
Oh, nice.
After.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm past that picture, but definitely always appreciate it. Well, let's see. We'll wrap this up. Thanks, guys, for tuning in tonight. Everyone tuning in tonight for the 80th anniversary, commemorating the 80th anniversary of the not the launching. Parks corrected me. That's not the right word.
It's the commissioning.
Commissioning of the USS Charrette HS Velos. And for the next episode of Museum Ship Mafia, we always try and do that on the second Wednesday of every month. So when it comes to June, pay attention for posts. It'll be the second Wednesday in June. If there isn't anything else, I'll just say my name is Ken Stano from the YouTube channel History X. Check out historyxchannel.com. Thank you, everybody, and hope you all have a great evening.
Good night.
Night.